All right, everyone, I'm going to show you how to fully modify the Vox 847 in 3 stages. The first stage, we're going to modify the sound, feel, and tone by changing out 4 resistors and 1 capacitor. The second stage will be true bypass with an LED indicator. And the third stage, if you want to take it that far, I'll be showing you how to add control knobs and toggle switches instead of the resistors and the capacitor. All right, for stage 1, we're going to need a 100K resistor, a 2.2K resistor, a 47K resistor, a 270 ohm resistor, and a 0.022 UF capacitor. I already unsoldered all of the resistors and capacitors with a solder sucker, so I'm just going to be pulling the parts out as we go. The first resistor we're going to change is this one here on the top left. This one controls the frequency peak. This is a 33K resistor, and we're going to change it out with a 100K. All right, yours should look something like that. The next resistor we're going to take out is the one right here in the middle. That's a 1.5K resistor that controls the mid-range. And we're going to replace that with our 2.2K resistor. All right, yours should look something like that. The next resistor we're going to change out is the one right next to it on the right side. That controls the volume. That's a 68K resistor. And we're going to change it out with a 47K resistor. All right, yours should look like that. And the very last resistor is going to be on the bottom left right here. That controls the gain. That's a 510 ohm resistor. And we're going to replace that with our 270 ohm resistor. And it should look like that. Okay, the next thing we're going to change is this capacitor here on the far right. This is a 0.01 UF capacitor, and we're going to switch that out with a 0.022 UF capacitor. This controls the range, and it will give you the Jimi Hendrix or Zakk Wylde tonality. And it should look something like that. On a side note, you can wire up the stock capacitor or the stock value with our new capacitor on a on-on toggle switch. The top capacitor is a 0.01 UF, and it's soldered to the top lug. The bottom capacitor is our 0.022 UF capacitor, and it's soldered to the bottom lug. Both capacitors are soldered together on the other side with a lead wire, and there's also a lead wire on the center lug. The other sides of our wire are going to go in the spot where that capacitor was. Like that. And now you can switch between stock mode and a wider Jimi Hendrix Zakk Wylde mode. Okay, for stage 2, to make it true bypass, we're going to cut the brown wire and we're going to remove the green wire, the white wire, and the blue wire. Remove the switch. Put our new switch in. Okay, to start off, our true bypass switch has a jumper wire from the bottom left lug to the bottom right lug. Next, we're going to take our brown wire and solder it to the center left lug. And we're going to take our green wire and we're going to solder it to the top left lug above the brown one. Next, we're going to do is take our white wire. We're going to solder that white wire to the right center lug. And we're going to take our blue wire and solder that to the top right lug above the white wire. All right, there it is. That is now true bypass. If you want to add a LED indicator, you're going to need an LED and a 1K resistor and a couple of wires. Okay, we're going to steal power with a jumper cable. And you can take power from either that lug right there or that lug right there. I'm going to solder mine down here. That's the third one over from the bottom. See, I have my red wire soldered to that lug there. When we're wiring up an LED, the long stem is the positive and the short stem is the negative. So I'm going to get that red wire we just soldered up and solder that to the long stem of the LED. All right, now the short stem of the LED on this other side, I'm going to put my 1K resistor on that side of the LED. All right, so we have the positive red line going into the long stem of the LED, and on the short stem, the negative, we have our 1K resistor. We're going to install the LED in whatever location you prefer. The other side of that resistor is going to go, it's going to go to the top center lug in between the green and blue. Okay, the last thing we have to do is add a ground wire from the center lug, and I'm going to solder the ground wire to the purple wire right here on the left side of the jack. That's ground. So I'm going to add ground wire to ground. All right there. We have a true bypass Vox Wah with an LED indicator. All right, this is the third stage where we change the control resistors for potentiometers, and I'm going to show you a different way to wire up the tone toggle. For the volume mod, we're going to need a 100K potentiometer, and we're going to solder a wire on the left and center lug, and then solder a wire onto the right lug. For the mid-range mod, we need a 5K potentiometer, and we're going to wire it up the same way. A wire soldered to the left and center lug, and a wire soldered to the right lug. For the sweet peak mod, we're going to need a 100K potentiometer. This one has a 10K resistor soldered in series with the right lug. For the gain mod, we're going to need a 500 ohm potentiometer, and this one has a 100 ohm resistor soldered in series with the right lug. All right, the first resistor I'm going to remove is the top left one right here. That's our sweep peak resistor. And we're going to take our 100K pot that has the 10K resistor in it, and we're going to solder our lead wires where that resistor was. All right. Should look something like that. The next one I'm going to remove is the one right here in the center that controls the mid-range. And we're going to replace it with our 5K potentiometer. All right, yours should look like that. Now we're going to replace the resistor right next to that one. That's the volume resistor. And we're going to use our 100K potentiometer that doesn't have the resistor in line. All right, yours should look like that. And the last resistor we're going to replace is the one right here on the bottom right. That controls the gain. And we're going to use the 500 ohm potentiometer. All right, yours should look like that. Now another thing, I wired this toggle switch exactly like I did before earlier in the video, except I'm using an on-off toggle switch. There's still a 0.01 UF capacitor soldered to the top lug, a 0.022 UF soldered to the bottom lug. Both capacitors are soldered together with a wire, and the center lug also has a lead wire. If you notice, I have the stock capacitor back in here. This is a 0.01 UF, and what I'm going to do is solder the leads of the toggle switch right where the capacitor was, which is right here. All right, yours should look like that. So now with using a on-off-on, in the middle, we have the stock sound. In one position, we have the Jimi Hendrix sound, And in the opposite position, we have the thick sound. All that's left to do is put it back together. All right, there it is, a fully loaded Vox 847. I gave it a new paint job. Since it's almost Halloween, I thought I'd do a spooky wah.